Well, it's great to see everybody come into formation, location of settings and traction. It's very powerful how we all connect to ourselves. But truly understand the existence is everything of the now setting. Okay, so you're not coming into abundance. You're coming back to who you are of its abundance. Okay, because you've already gone through your time setting. That's why it's confusing for a lot of people, because you're not living. And living is a process of knowing who you are in set locations. Okay, so it's very complicated if you don't understand how to travel. And traveling is extremely important because it sets the mind, adaptation, it sets the force, the calculation, it sets the high calculation, high position of the travel mechanism, high position over power. The power record time sequence puts you into the now of its correlation. Directing lines of signals, anything to modification setting puts everything back in its design. Okay, so it's very confusing, right? So in that track line connection high centers, the abundance is waiting for you. It hasn't left. It's always been there. And when you get abundance, you get the abundance back in frequency. It comes in your set location, but it has to be in chronological order. And once it's in chronological order, everything comes back to its design, right? All travel mechanism high positions over powers generates the screen settings and travels, directing all position location to your settings. It's extremely powerful when you come into your system to set locations. That's what we don't identify. Okay, so everybody's in the process of knowing nothing and not understanding everything. That's everything in the equation. Knowing who you are is everything in mass. Now that comes in E equals M line calculation settings, but you're no longer in a square line set locations. You're no longer in a diamond core. You're no longer separated in its alignments of triangulation. In position locations of what's above is what's below, the center calculation is on calculation line sent into the 3-track line communications operations surface. That's 3 zeros identification settings, 4 lines of zeros in position of track lines, 4 lines of 3 in position of 7. That puts you back in provision line centers. What do we mean track line connections of? 4 thumbs up, 3 track lines of high position. Viewers watching is a correlation to these attractions. Directing lines of communication is all levels on how you see yourself. You become yourself, of who you always have been. Okay? So that's in position, location, and setting. So you haven't lost anything. You haven't achieved anything. You're coming back to your memory. So that's what it is. Coming into your abundance for the very first time through travel. But it's in chronological order, in time. Time sectors, vectors, and quads, sets and lines in communication setting to program location setting to attraction. This puts all levels of you in set location to its adaptation surface. Okay? All right. So how's everybody doing? Everybody's getting the connection stream settings and track lines, where 0 was extremely powerful. She was on fire with all those readings, guys. Identifies your systems to set locations, right? So the thing is, to understand achievement is to understand surface. To understand surface is to understand the mechanism location setting. To understand that set location, you have to understand how to use yourself, okay, as your sim. Simulation, identification, and modification, right? Really understand the triangulation, reset, position of programs, okay? And I'll say it again in position locations. You haven't lost anything. You exist, but that existence is its memory of what you've already achieved. Your whole life force is complete. But the position of the set location line center has to understand the existence of the now, the eternity of the now. And that's all it is, nothing else. Okay? So to stop squabbling in line position locations and worrying and thinking and hesitating, it doesn't matter what you do. Everything's done. Okay? Setting position of track lines to your high setting position of its operation. So that should make you feel a bit better. Okay? Because the thing is, once you understand the existence, then you understand that set location when it comes into zero gravity. Zero gravity is this line communications, how you come into the spherics. setting track lines to the automatic line set location setting to travel, indirect location system, how to use the charging mechanism line calculations to your system, because your vessel communication is trying to understand you, right? So what is it doing? It's going back in time. It's rewinding in your system location of already what you achieved, right? Now, what guides your system is your higher self, your avatar, and your sim. 3 factors: calculation, high interference, and travel direction and time sequence, all calculations setting quadrants of self. Self-propelling, self-motivation, self-activity, self-triangulation. Reset and position program to set position your operations at locations back in traction. Okay? So you're not losing anything. Okay? So that should help you out. That should give you a little bit more understanding to understand the future of you is already set in division. Okay? The confusing part is the body is not in the conception of air. So it has to send the direct signals where the calculations of your moon is going back in time and your sun is waiting on position. So moon's going this way, the sun is here and waiting signal. As it comes in positions back to 0, the moon aligns its rotation center, sun comes forward, they come together in position location, getting you out of the track lines, setting line position location yin and yang, process communications, coming into its dimensional sail, guiding the system in the calculation line centers into new track location setting of travels of 2024 of open contact. Setting track lines and high center interference is understand how to set up position locations. Now, I don't know how many people have learned how to sail in position location. It's not about understanding how to sail, it's knowing how to direct your sail. Where is it going? Where's the waving pattern? Where's the central calculation? Where's the spectrum lines? Where are the high division line interference? If it's my Merkaba in position travels, is my higher self in track location of the earth, is my avatar through a geometric operation of design? What's going on with the modifications of the sim, the navigation line conditional levels of environments? What is the track interference position location setting that attractions of? It's all directing lines to your solar sails track locations. Getting direct panels is all level set location. Now, once you put everything back to 0, it comes in one set location in one center. Yin and yang of process calculations. So that turns the high calculation line sets. Body track lines, all calculation position to its operation system. Now, the cerebral cortex lines at stream. Directing lines of communication is reduced in how to set location your settings. They're all connected to the all sparks. Everybody knows where that comes from. Location transformer units and locations it travels. Directing lines of modification system. You have to really understand how to travel through line settings. So track line communications, you got the team sets, observation cycles, high center interference, new programs at location line centers, travel communication, galactic units will be outside looking in travel calculations. Team line center is going to go through 24,000 line dimensional door line screens, direct lines of thought patterns, direction timelines, AI map sequence, position powers. So everybody's seen the movie Good Will Hunting, position location, Matt Damon, with very powerful line condition high centers where it comes into the organics, calculations, and chemistry, setting track lines of point systems, high settings, high levels, rotation centers of star direction, time sequence, position locations of patterns, line signals, high calculation lines, indirect signal communication system, atom line rotation centers, and track communication center to its open sequence, direction of timelines, point systems of track. Okay, it's all about element line screens, directing lines of panels, and point systems settings, and travel communication. So really say how it's modified calculation lines, how the cerebral sets lines of point system of track communications, 2 lines to centers, travel line centers. Now we have 3 lines of indication, 6 line positions, and 9 line system, travel lines of 8 and 7 track lines. You got to direct signal location 8 line centers, and travel calculation of 0 calculation 1 line centers, 2 line centers high position, 4 track calculating lines, metric meters, I line position location of 5 line generation screens and set locations. Each line indication lines and number has to be in a sequence. It travels directly on point centers. Molecule structure of design, 6 over panel, sets lines, all calculations, jump scars, moon rotation centers, and track communication setting, all levels of open sequence and position of panels. Now, directing lines of travel, direction of timelines, 3 lines to height position location, 3 lines of 5, and measure. Setting track lines in 3 set position of travel communications. Sun comes in, track lines, high center interference, 2 panels, communication lines, a rotation surface, and track location. Directing lines communication. So what I'm doing is going through formula and calculated settings of chemistry. Chemistry line centers, high position travel calculations, how to go through point systems, represent timelines, high calculated line position programs, and set position of zero gravity set locations. Done by equation. You see how you switch line the calculation setting to all levels, how everything becomes a model of all calculated line interference in the GOD mixed and high position of travels. Directing line calculated line centers, high position to its operations service locations. Directing lines of higher self, communication avatar to sim location navigation. Okay, done by equation. Center units of gravity line settings of travel. Getting point systems attractions, point lines, molecular structure of design, cerebral cortex lines of 3 line centers of travel communication of point systems. Now, understanding how to direct your panel communication settings. ¿Cómo estás? So, getting track lines, right? So, we understand how all line centers. So, we go through X line communication, X line rotations into Y line, X line, Z line rotation, setting position travels. Calculation of X, high calculation stream location of centers. Now we put an XT1000 line stream, X lines 1,000 line stream interference, high position over pi, seconds over lines a meter, sets position locations in minutes, and minutes in travel communications of 2-hour line service. 2 operation service, sun and the moon, and track location line system, kaleidoscope location. Now directing lines calculation lines at high centers, high positions operation. Now, getting calculation lines, we travel positions all levels. Bracket communication XX 1 line centers, 2 ZZ 4 minutes line centers, 3 line signatures and position for travel. Directing lines modification lines. Atom line rotation to 3 set position travel calculation of pi direct signal. Now directing lines of communication line interference in position travel communications. Point system set lines 0, 0, 0, 4 track location to 3 line position travels instead of 2 in track location of 1. Right? 0 is a correlation. Directing lines of zeros sets position 1, 2, and 3 track line connections. Now you've learned how to travel calculation line interference. Now taking line position of maps equation line centers. We take the 3 lines of provisions, 3 line centers, and 3 sectors over pi in track locations. Directing lines of communication setting of 0 calculation. Now, directing lines of communication retracts high set lines, high interference, and modem. Very good, Kevin. Setting lines of communication, 3 line signatures, 2 lines of track locations. Directing lines of underscore. Direct communication line and line interference is 1,000 line meters and track location of scales of balance and travel communicate setting the program location system of 1 track to line condition high setting. Put all formation lines high centers of pi in direct locations. 1 million channels, seconds, lines, and minutes, hours, 2 operations set locations at all levels of kaleidoscope communication setting and track location of the sun and the moon of operations surface and pyramids and track location. Directing lines modification center line interference operations surface. Done by equation. Okay? Very powerful equation. All right, so if you understand the chemistry, then you understand these set location line centers, swinging lines of rotation centers, track location high center. This is where it comes into Goodwill Hunting, track location settings and travels. Direct modification system and travel calculations, point system, travel line settings. So to really understand how to modify line centers or Y line shapes, point system, track lines, and set location and setting. Directing communication line centers, 2 panels, console communication of 1 line rotation surface. Now, put a line center line interference, 3 wave patterns and track signals, alpha line tone line interference of center communication. Direct calculation line at 3, 2, and 1 track location. Sets lines of sun and the moon, line rotation surface and track location. Now, direct signals, we come into all calculation of 0 gravity line centers of 1, 1, 1, 1, position location 0, 0, 0. Sets line calculation of 0, 1, and position location of 0, 1, and track location of 0, 1. 3 track line centers, high position of its operation. Directing lines of communication line interference and position location, flux capacitor, travels line, center line interference and set location. Direct calculation, single line calculation stream, done by equation. Okay. So that's a modification line screen. Directing lines calculation high interference and position location all settings. Directives communication line interference comes into 2 panels. Notice we put 0, 0, 0, 4 line settings of 5 and position of 6. Setting track lines. So I have 1 position of 2, 2 position of 3, and 3 positions of 4. Direct calculation line is center line interference of 0, 1 track lines. So we have 0 line position of 2 track lines and a 0 line position of 3 track locations. Now, direct line calculation line centers makes them high position travels over pi. Position of point systems, line connection high centers, and position location line system and travel calculation. Direct calculation line interference, ethers communication ground lines, and position of pi. See this direct signal location, how it comes in position location, track lines, high center interference, and position location, its operation. 0 calculation lines at 0. Sets position of track lines, high centers operation system. 0 track line connection height centers to 3 line rotation center location setting. So 0 communication, 3 line centers, high position location. 0 over 3, 3 on line rotation of 0 position of travels. Sets position location travels in position of 0, 0, track location line centers. 4 track line connection, high center position operation. Direct calculation lines of 0 equals line calculation setting, position location law system. 1, 2, 3 track line condition high system. 4 line center high position. 4 lines over 3 line rotation centers attraction. That my equation. Okay. Modification, split the line centers. Setting line communication line interference, high position programs. Direct lines of clocking, split the lines communication setting calculation. Calculation line interference, there's the flux capacitor. Waving line cycles, dimension line scales, and high rotation center. Track position to its operation setting in 1, 2, 3 set location. That my equation. Okay. Mechanism over line screen, directing lines communication of panels. Now the panel communication line interference sets all communication settings of clockings and direct signals. Okay. So it's about waving line, rotation centers, and track locations. Measures and position of point systems and track calculation of 4 lines. Direct calculation lines, okay. Lacing line communications. Directing lines of solar sail, okay. Move track lines in position locations of 1, 2, 3, and set location, all right. Direct calculation line, 0 line communication center calculation. Now, directing lines high center interference comes in all position location of 1, 2, 3, and 4 platforms of communication. Direct calculation lines, lacing line communication lines, a box line, rotation, triangulation, reset position, triangulation crosses over, triangulations, box line, rotation of center, calculation, strain. Direct calculation line interference, triangulation of 0, 1, position of 0, and 4 track locations. Calculation line interference, panels communication of 0, 0, 0, 3 track lines of 4, it sets lines of calculation high interference, and position of 1, 2, and 3 in track line connections. Direct line calculations over pi, direct signals. Colossal communication, 0 line, and 0 line in 3 track locations. Sets position location of 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location of travel. Direct communication lines are colossal communication lines, making it high interference, high position of powers, which in a time sequence, position locations over calculation. That's my equation. Okay. Very complicated stuff, guys, but it's all formulas of set location. Okay? All right. So understanding the equation line screen is really to understand how to go through line rotation centers. Because remember, you guys are in a 15 million line rotations of box lines of memory. Getting your memory back in point line rotation centers of 2 box line center triangulation reset position programs and position location of your system. Traffic on time sequence comes into star line, star link, star panels, star portals communication. Directing lines, calculation line interference, 1x1000 has a high signal. Same line communication graph lines, 1 position, 2 position, 3 track locations. Now, directing lines, communication line interference, we have 2 point systems and calculation line centers. In position dot centers, molecule structures of design, 3 lines of track, 2 lines of provision, and 1 center location. Now, direct calculation line interference, we have 0 correlation, 0 calculations, 0 ground settings, 0 position of travel. Directing line communication cross line signal. Sets position X, Y, Z, line rotations, X position locations, positions over pi. Direct calculation line interference and position travel calculation of point system box lines, triangulation resets, 3 weather pattern communications, and flywheel direction of time sequence, 3 Fibonacci line sequence, line calculation setting, and position of triple bypass as location. That's my equation. All right, so the center calculation line screens is all position your formulas. Now, getting direct signals, really understand how to get into the serendipity. Point system lines of abundance and travel line position location to its calculation of its abundance. All track lines, high center interference, in position location generation screen lines, and all adaptation surface in calculation line system of the life force of triangulation reset position programs of center calculation. Okay, that's my equation. So that's abundance over pi and a trifactor. Okay, so directing lines of position lines of zeros. I have 0, 0, 0, and have 4 lines rotations. Track lines of high calculation lines, center lines of 3 track line connections. Directing lines calculation, 3 line signals, 3 line provisions, 3 line cycles, and 3 locations. All right. Now, crossing line, steering line interference is a pyration of time sequence, puts position of panels, sets lines of communications, all levels of 3 weather patterns. Fibonacci line sets line communication of square in a theta communication surface and 3 track locations. Direct lines of calculation line interference, point system, 1 track location, right? Direct lines, x1000 comes in, slides cross line, center line rotations, half pi position, travel over pi, direction of time sequence, power direction of time sequence, and power direction of time lines. Direct calculation lines, center line communications, opens all signals, opens all panels, opens all traction, and line sending high position to its operation surface and track location. That my equation. Okay, so in that cerebral cortex line setting, 24,000 signature streams. Okay, so 24 equals lines of 1,000 line stream. Setting track lines, calculation lines, line centers of seconds, and position of minutes, and 2 operation line center location of the sun and the moon. Okay? So anything line, 2 line center line and position locations, the last 2 digit line rotation centers is the sun and the moon. Track calculation line interference of yin and yang process communication. All right? So getting direct signals is understand how to use your position location of calling lines, calling line position track lines, teleportation streams at T line center. Talk line position location, high center position of its operation. Direct line communication of timestamps, line signals, high positions calculations. Line cross stream, direct lines of communication, energetic dome. Signal line conditions across line set locations. Direct line communication of 24, 48, and line condition of 72, position of 144, tracks line calculation setting. 13 over pi indirect signal, 13 line calculating lines at 1300 track location setting no travel. Got locations of 48 line position of box centers and line 72 and set line position of its computer frame, direct signal location of its operation service, done by equation. All right, directing line position of travel lines, calculation modifies. Triangulation, reset position of probe location settings, alpha delta line rotation theta, connection high centers of travel. Point systems, line connections. Point systems, line connections. Overcross, line setting. Rotate the surface, triangulation, reset position programs. Directing lines of circle line, alpha line, change lines, position and traction. Okay, so we got 3 indicate line rotations, 3 UFO line rotation centers, attractions, right? 3 line connections, 60,000, 1 position, 2 position, 3 track locations. All right, so directing line calculating lines in position location, energetic domes, in 2 location grids. Direct calculation lines at fly direction of time sequence in 3 lines of panels, 6 lines of precision, and 0 calculation lines at ground location. Done by equation. Very complicated stuff, guys. It's all levels of formula, equation, location, high center, high position, location, dimensional, solar, sail connections. Okay? Okay, so getting into the Godheads. Godheads of travel is all about understanding the mechanism of high position and set location settings. Point systems, molecule structures, right? 3 line connections, right? There's 3 line settings. You see a line signal, I see 3. All right? Sets position of track lines at 3 sets. Okay? You've got to go beyond. You're not in the process. You've got to see beyond, to go beyond. You are beyond. I see. I see what I need to see because it's already there. That's a 3-track location, right? That's a 6-track location, but you only see 1. You got to go beyond. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? That's how you got to get correlations of pi calculations, right? Mass calculation is to and from in line rotation centers and direct and redirect position of panels, and the clock line rotation center, a future adaptation of yin and yang process calculations, right? Done by equation. All right, in position location, the formula equation line settings, high position is all block line centers, block line rotations, 3 blocks calculation stream location, right? Directing lines of communication lines, okay? Correlation high interference of 3, 4, and position of umbrellas. Directing calculation line interference, 2 panels and 2 track locations. Directing line signals. Modification lines of circles in 3 line calculation setting and measure in correlations of panels of communication. Calculation line interference, platitude lines of 2, platitude lines of 3, platitude lines of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location. All right, directing lines, communication lines of sun and the moon, travels line direction and time sequence, all position travel calculating lines of point system, phase direction of timelines, and future adaptation surface and track location. Done by equation. Okay. So everything is set up, which is all calculated modified, how you guys get your memory line rotation centers and 1-track location. Now that's a 1-track location, but where's the track? Track is here, line calculation setting, graph and communications, and road line, not rotation center. Okay. So getting position location of structure design, molecules of structures line, position location, high center, perspective, and position location of travels. How you see modification centers of travel calculations. Directing calculation of point systems in 1 direction, in 1 signal, in 1 modification. Okay? Now the modification line centers comes in all pi generation streams. That's pi over line, pi over pi, and pi calculations. Direct calculation of pi over volume, velocity, and position of travel calculating line center, acceleration lines of Mach and line rotation centers, and travel calculation system and travel calculation. Right? Done by equation. Okay, that's all set at location of pi. Sonar interference. Travel calculation lines of point systems, all line centers. Indirect signal, position location 1 setting. Track location of 3, set location of 6, and track location of 9 is set locations. Calculation lines of 6, line connections of 3, line position location of 9, set position of travel. Calculation lines of 6, calculations of 9, and line rotation of center, communication of its operation. Done by equation. See how you change the mechanism of force, line, triangulation, high position, probe location of 6 and 9 position location of patterns, a resurface location setting, and track communication line interference, and position location of its operation, location setting, of travel. Okay, that's how you come into 69. The position locations. All right, done by equation. Platitude line screens, directing lines of graphical calculation line settings and travel. All operation centers and one signature panel communication operation set location inner settings in communication system and travel recognition. Okay. Point systems and 2 track lines and 3 lines of measure. Position locations and center line connections of 1, 2, 3, triangulation resets, triangulation reset, triangulation reset, and triangulation reset position of programs. Now, directing line calculation lines, lacing line communication, 1 lines of 0. Travels lines, crosses lines over cross location. Sets position of the moon, moon surfaces line settings, and all of the line rotation surface, and a triangulation reset position program of face recognition of time sequence. Done by equation. Okay. So the moon center is lines correlate setting of travels, directing calculation line position locations. Moon line center, moon track locations. Team line rotations, calculation high interference. Reservers over high, calculation all levels, capillars line interference. Point system track lines, directing line calculation setting, compute system line interference, direct calculation line interference, a sim and position of travel communication of center attraction. Now, directing lines of 2-point system travels, 3 calculation line settings of travel communications, 3 lines of position, 3 lines of provision, and 3 lines of location. Okay. Panel communication one line service, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 track locations, 6, 7, 8 line dividers. Directing lines calculation lines of 0, line rotations of 3, in position of panels, in position locations, in a cluster calculation line, swirl line rotations of the tunnels, the calculation positions of programs. Directing line position location of power reference over pi. Now my equation. Okay, mechanism high force is travel line position location high systems. So we travel calculation line system 0, 0, 0. Sets position of 4. Okay, travel calculation of 1 line, center high position of 1 center. Position location of 0 calculation, 0 calculations, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, 6 lines, 7 lines, 8 lines, 9 lines, 10 position of center, 11 and position location, and 12 is inset location of center location. Now, direct communication line center puts your position location as high setting. Now, the pyramid and routers lines of 3 track location high centers of its interference. Direct calculation lines of 1, 2, 3 set location of travels. Direct line communication lines of 2 panels of communication, cross line streams, 1 position, 3 tracks, 4 positions, 5 tracks, 6 positions, 7 tracks, 8 cross line settings, and mechanism high force line connection. Now, directing communication line centers, line position of 0, correlation high center interference like crosswords, crossing line signatures, stream interference, and 2 track location high centers, high position to its operation service, that location of balance. Done by equation. Okay, mechanism line calculation, 1 line center, the line rotation center, track location of yin and yang, a process calculation. Done by equation. All right, so understand how to do a crossword, use mechanism high position locations over power. Power generation line screens, directing lines of panels, in position location of 0, 0, 0, and 4 operation settings. Travel calculation of 1, 2, and 3 track lines. Setting line communication of 0, 2. Setting track location of 0. Setting track location of 0, and 3 lines, 3 lines, and 3 lines of 0. Sets position locations equal lines of communication docile calculation of 1 setting. Now, we're just saying how to use the mechanism line position force line. We start with the 3 tracks, 3 divisions, and 3 locations. Okay? Travel and timelines. We take the 1 line center, which is 0 gravity, into 3 lines in position of 2 and position of 3. Okay? Sets correlation high interference. We up line swing 1 position, 2 position, 3 positions, 4 positions, 5 positions, 6 positions more. 7 lines, 8 lines, 10, 11, and 12 set location. Right? Directing lines of communication near dimensional sail. Solar correlates high center of the moon. Sets communication lines, screens lines, high center interference, and position of programs, face correlation of panels, and direct signals of operation. Done by equation. Okay. So getting the moon line center high position location of 300,000 line screens. It's direct location setting. Now working with seconds, minutes, and the hours. Okay. So like I just remember the hour line communication is set location of the sun and the moon. Splits the nodes and track location. Direct lines. Seconds over line. 2 clock line rotation centers, a flywheel direction of time sequence. Fibonacci line swirls, high calculation of kaleidoscope and position of travel calculation, high point system, line condition, high setting. Now, direct calculation of seconds, line position locations, setting line communication, minutes, line position location operation, and hours and correlate line interference in moon track location and dimensional sail and solar sail track line conditions, all line rotation surface and track location. All right, that's my question. Okay, setting anomalies and line connection high travels. It's really understanding how to get in position location your settings and tractions. All right, so let's go through 16 lines of channels. Set looking at equals lines of 6. 6 equals lines of pi. Calculation of pi sets lines of over, sets lines of communication of 3 graphs communication centers. Now, directing lines of platform and position location of center. Track communication line center sets position location to its center lines of its holographic set location. Cross line screen. Equal line calculation lines. Equal lines sets lines of 2 track locations. Direct line calculation settings of box location. See the box? Setting travel lines of high center interference and downshift crosses stream location of center. Direct calculation line centers, pi direction of time sequence. All right. Getting direct line centers, clock line rotation centers, center communication centers, center line rotation surface, security line rotation centers, inner rotation surface, and position location tractions in molecule structure of design and line rotation surface and track location. That's my equation. Okay. Getting structures, line division locations, all level settings. 300,000 line rotation. 3 zeros calculation line streams and line condition auto levels. 3 line zeros, high positions, up line, same location, center attraction. Getting direct signals, modification line centers, 1 track lines, 2, 3, 4. Sets position of 4 settings, set location 1, 2, 3. Sets position of 3 settings and set location. All right. Directing calculation line interference, sets line centers of 3 weathers, 1, 2, and 3 track location and location centers. Track calculation of 1, 2, and line rotations, 1, 2 track locations, right? Location grid lines, point system track calculations, 1 atom line rotation spin cycle, line rotation center and track location. Now, directing modification lines of 3 zeros, we track the communication centers. This puts a high line communication setting in 1, 2, and 3 panels of operation. Directing line communication lines cross the line to 45-degree and line centers high calculation setting. This is calculation of sands of time. 4 tracks in line centers 1, 2, 3 track location. Direct calculation of 4 over lines of pi. Sets lines as 5, 6, 7, 8 in travel calculation. Direct lines of solar sail. Direct communication line interference, 300,000 lines. Set line communication to 600,000 screens in set position. That my equation. All right, setting the moon surface locations back in time. Triangulates the position location of the programs. Point system line setting. Okay. Direct communication lines of yin and yang. Process calculations. Point systems and tracking yin and yang. Process line connections. Cross line symbols. Direct line signals. Modification centers. So, indirect signal to its modification line screen is all about understanding how to use your position locations out of the diamond line into a box line rotation surface and a theta communication line stream and high calculated line centers and security line rotations and security line rotations in a location grid and center position to its operation. All right, done by equation. Okay, so getting into the sequence location centers, we go through the tone center rotation. Teleportation and line calculation, telewaving, and line condition of towers of communications, right? Triangulation and reset position programs, space in between, okay? Sets location of space in between, okay? Sets location of space in between. Now, when you understand you guys are not in line conditions of space in between yet, you're out of the separation, but you understand more line communication at higher levels, how to go into teleporting, telecommunicating, teleport line centers, high position travels, and towers of communication. Direct calculation lines at point system travel calculations. Direct calculation line interference and 4 track line connections. We have 4 zeros in line position travel. Okay. Modification line centers, XT1000s and 3 track line calculation setting, high setting. High position locations, measure position of 1, measure positions of 2, measure positions of 3, and measure position location of 4 track location. Okay. Now, directing communication lines, we set lines of communication center in position across circle. Direct calculation lines of platforms and high line rotation surface and frequency patterns. Calculation line interference of balanced position of travel, mechanism high force, line triangulate position of programs and set location. Direct calculation line interference sets lines of communication as center line in rotation surface of yin and yang. That equation. Okay, force times, force direction of time lines. Direct lines of panels and direct signals. Modificate your system travel calculations. Point system, one track. Okay. Now you really have to understand the formulas to create line center locations because of these equations over the line screens. Very complicated stuff, how it travels in position, location, height, centers. All levels of communication center travel. Calculation of point systems. Okay, very complicated stuff in a 4-line rotation surface. And an angle point position travel. Okay, see the point line centers? Point systems, point line centers. 1 position of 2, 3 positions of 4, 4 positions of 5, a set location of center of travel. Okay? Now, directing lines of communication lines, 0 line rotation surface has an angle point, sets location of location grid in set position. Calculate modified line rotations in 3 tracks, 4 tracks, and 5 in provision of set locations. Pi generation screens, direct lines of clocking, and 0 calculations. Okay? Point systems of track and kaleidoscope communication. Direct line centers of the sun opens all signal location modification to its moon. Calculations at 3 line rotation centers and track location system, and line centers at 3 line rotations of center communication. Down by equation. All right. Okay. So it's all levels of modifications, guys. Really understand your angle points and point line centers. The molecule structure of design has a 3 track locations. Fractals over pi has a cloud line rotation surface and track connections. Okay. 3 point system molecules, cloud line rotation. Direct line calculation of 3 platforms and track location. Now, directing communication line centers of 1 signal, line rotation surface, triangulation reset position programs, set location line center. Directing communication line interference, platitude line rotations of centers, and line rotation surface, triangulation reset position programs, and calculation high setting. Down the equation. Okay, so in patterns, we start to recognize the calculations to your flywheel. Now, position a crop circle. 1 set location line centers, point systems, point system, point system, point system, point system. So we've got 1 position of 1, 1 position of 1, 1 position of 1, 1 position of 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 set location. Traverse timelines, 2 platforms and 1 line setting. Sets lines of 2, sets lines of 2, sets lines of 2, track locations. Jupiter comes in, Neptune comes in, and Pluto comes in. Inline rotation centers at 3 track line centers, high position of signature, position of programs, high calculation setting, and 1 line rotation center, the yin and yang. Set calculation line interference. So that's 5 planets and 3 track locations in high position travel. Now, directing line communication lines. The platitude line interference in position of Neptune sets lines of communication of course lines of abundance. Track calculation line interference measures and correlates in settings and 3 track line connections. Now, direct line calculation is 4 lines of 3, sets lines of 7 attraction. Direct communication line interference sets the platitude line rotation centers in position location of center operation. Direct communication line interference comes in XT1000. Now we XT line rotation, center line conditions. Come in scan mode, line rotation and 4 track locations. Direct line calculation line interference, high calculating line centers, high position. This steeps the hill and track location to energetic graph screens and 2 panels and 3 and 4 line rotations of center calculation. Down by equation. Look how powerful it is. It's all mechanism of high position travel. Okay. Know exactly what you're coming into through your abundance line condition chronological order or calculation string. Okay, so that's done. Now, getting into line calculation settings of 24,000 lines, so through cortex lines and transformation units, location of centers, and 3-0 calculating line system, 4 track location centers. You're always working with 4, you're always working with 3 track connections. You have to understand how to use the provisional line cycles, how to go through 1, 2, 3, and 4 line centers to a dimensional sail at 24,000 signatures of dimensional door, a sequence communications to its high generation screens and 3 line connections. Okay? So it's important you understand what is going on with your body form line centers to your battery and communication of programs and 2-point systems. Right? Battery calculation line centers, there's the positive, position location, there's the negative in set location. Okay? Light charge, light recognition of time, 1 setting, high position, correlates in high center position calculation, center calculation line interference, high track lines, point system line calculation, setting positions operation. Congratulations, all levels or communication. Down by equation. Okay, inline rotation centers, battery reset position programs, setting position and track lines. Mercury, high calculation lines of 1, 2, and line rotation centers. We take the point system of the sun, track location of the moon, and 1 rotation center and track location. Calculation modification line centers, the travel direction of time sequence. Position location XT1000 line string. Direct line signals, modification lines of 1 center of communication. Now, directing calculation line centers, 0 calculation line centers, and 3 platforms in rotation center to line signals to the other line rotation center a correlation. Okay? Direct lines in high interference travel. Now, platforms, dimensional door. 24 line, 1,000 line rotation serves and triangulation reset position programs back in chronological order of abundance position of pi, done by equation. It's all set up for calculation and moderation. All right, that's done. Now, getting your position, location, your centers is ready to understand how to use your security lines in one line rotation of 45-degree angle. Point systems, cross lines, set location line system, travel breaks and time lines. Security line rotations, point system, travel. Direct calculation line interference, XT1000 comes in, center line rotation, center calculation line centers, picks up the pi position of travel lines, and direction of time sequence in center calculation. All right. Now, in that track line says a 3-line measure sets positions: pi direction of time, pi direction of location, pi local high centers, pi calculation modification line interference of 012 to 024 to 048 to 072 to 0144 at track location. Time by equation. Okay, so it's important you understand what's going on with you in position formulas of equation line centers of pi direction of time sequence. Puts position of the panels in operation service to one signal, one operation, one yin and yang of infinity 8 line connection. Okay. Setting track lines calculation high interference, and location of 6, and calculations of 9, and line centers of balance. Okay. Setting calculation of splits and anomalies. Fly direction time, calculation high center. Okay. Now, directing line communication line centers has a cross line signals and 3 track line connections. Okay. Calculation of 1, 2, and 3 line settings. Okay. Now, understanding the platforms, how it goes into the center communication of its equal line calculation center of center position. Operates the platforms in 4 lines and position locations 6 and 7 and 8 track location. Okay. Setting up platforms in 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 in provision. Okay, very powerful stuff. Now, the open single location of the dimensional sail has a panel scale. Sets lines communication near star gates, star maps, star panels, star division, star location centers of operation. Okay, done by equation. Okay, and so getting those line center location in your systems, it has an equation line screen. Equation line into the box. Sets line calculation diamond line. Sets location center of travel. So this puts a quantum line, equal line change. Box line rotation centers in diamond core line surface and triangulation. Point system, magnetic high face, high line rotation center calculation. Okay. Modification line centers, triangulation, reset position of tunnels. Sets line communication programs and line position your astral travels of projection. Okay. That's my equation. All right, so the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols are now traveling through mechanisms of high positions. High force lines of 1 equals lines of 0. 1 equals lines of 1 in position of travel. Okay, so this is where you change the 0 position of 1 plus 1 no longer equals 3. Sets lines calculation of 2, calculation of high interference of 2 equals lines of 2 track location. Security lines of position over pi. So 3 lines of 2, 1 lines of 1, and 1 lines of 2 track location. Direct calculation line interference, balance position of 1 plus 1 equals lines of 3. Setting track lines calculation of 0, calculation lines of 1, calculation lines of 2, add equation line interference, 1 cross line stream interference, positive over pi equals 3. 3 panels of communication of center box, balance, and box location. Done by equation. All right. Setting position location of centers, reducing how to get a modification of your screens. Directing line position locations, your box line rotation surface. Okay. Point system, 45-degree angle. 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, 5 line, 6 line, and 7 line set locations. 3 lines of provision and set location of travel. All right. Solar sail and direct signal ascent position. Sun comes in traction. Remember, sun can be any form, any line rotation to morphine line rotation center track to its communication. Right. It doesn't have to be a certain size. It's all sizes. Sets lines of the moon, cross line symbols. Setting direct signals and center communications. Center line calculation setting is 0 operation. Okay. Now the center communication line interference, the patterns of line rotation into 3 settings. Track calculation line interference is 0 correlation. Direct lines, directing panels, calculate line interference, and a new dimensional line rotation of surface and triangulation reset position programs as said location. Done by equation, guys. Very powerful stuff. Okay. Okay. So how's everybody doing so far? By having fun? Whee! Right? Okay, so intractability line centers your travels. Getting line sending line interference into one signature, 2 track lines, and 3 line rotation centers of traction. Measuring position locations. Now, are they all the same length? Yes or no? Are they all the same length? Yes or no? They're all the same length. You know why? Because the center communication comes into its box location center. See? All the same, right? It all connects the same. What do we got in line rotation? 14 tracks. See the 14? Hoo-ah. Same position location line centers. Travel. Mechanism high force line calculation, geometric operation surface, and center communication. Directing lines of communication line settings. 1-point system travel, right? Calculation of 0, 0, 0, and 0 track location of 4 settings. Sets position location x2000s and 4 track line connection settings and 4 line rotation surface. Set to calculate high interference in Jupiter, Neptune, Mercury in center, position of all levels, platitude line position locations, all calculated line interference, Uranus, line calculation setting, and track locations, taking position of planets and high calculation line streams, and a 4-box frequency panel in high line centers, the 3 track line connections of 4 line provisions and 3 set location line centers, a center communication of yin and yang. That my equation. So understanding the travel calculation lines, solar graph communication setting to your solar line streams is directing your system. Soul connections. Okay, so equals connection setting, right? Directing lines of modification centers of travel. Okay. Sets lines, S line rotations, point system of the track location of 2 lines. Now, 1 cross line stream, direct line connection, high center interference, high position travel settings. Calculation line systematical, operation, unifications of levels of travel. Okay. 4 lines and 3 line rotation service in a solar direct signal and modification system of sail calculations. Now, directing lines of panels and communication line surface. Sets lines of travel lines, direction of time lines, high position location of force lines, triangulation, reposition location of standard calculations. That's my equation. Okay. How's everybody doing? Getting a better understanding how this is all in provision? Now, in line rotations, we go through flight navigation centers. Okay, we go through travel calculations. Keyboard line rotation centers. Flash drive communications, point systems of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set location. Body frame, computer frame, sets lines of track location. Okay, so in line rotation, you have a flash drive, 3 flash drive communication centers, travel calculation line centers, high positions, operation surface, and triangulation reset location of programs. Calculation lines, 1, 2, and 3 set location of travels. Calculation of 4 and 5 set connections. Right? Everything's on a 45-degree angle. Why? Because it's center lines of communication of north, calculation of north, and calculation of coordinates of north set locations. Diamond core line centers taken out of the resistant location of programs. Calculation line centers, 0 correlation setting, and travel records of time sequence and power records of line centers of face recognition. That's my equation. Okay. Computer framing, direct line signals, modification line centers, high position operation settings. Intuitive intelligence equals lines of thoughts, line connected centers, taken out of the imagination lines and position location of magic. Magic lines, the mind lines equals lines of conscious set location is down equation. Down my equation. All right, so in that line calculation setting, point system travel calculation. Directing lines of communication line interference. You have to really identify how to use your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols of travel. That's all you got to do. You can't add an equation lines of 7 if they're separated. They have to travel and communicate with each other. They have to. Okay, that's the only way they connect with each other, through a power direction of time sequence, position location of tunnel, and communication. Right? So you're adding the 7 line in the 3 track location. Towers of communication. See the tower in the center? Ooh-ah. All right, so look at that communications, but look at around line centers. Look how it rotates in set position. But see how it locks in signal until it goes in position travel? See? Isn't that amazing? Locks in signal. Okay, until I let it go. See? Which has its own frequency pattern. Setting direct line centers is 0 calculated line system, a kaleidoscope line rotation, surface, triangulation, reset position of programs, and set location. That equation. All right. So in the power direction of time sequence, we have to really understand how to use our charge mechanism settings of travel. Formations equals lines of box. Box equals triangulation resets. 3 triangulated wrong line centers high interference. Hieroglyphics flywheel direction time sequence. Pattern recognition of line lines, calculation streamlines, and 3-track location settings, and formations of 3-track location. All right, that's done. Now, it goes through sequence line communication lines. So that's 24,000 layers, equals line calculations. Layers over pi, okay, indirect signal. Getting position of programs, okay? Calculation line interference, 2 tracks and 4 lines of measure, okay? Calculation line centers is 0, rotation centers of the sun and the moon, and line rotation center of communication system of travel. See the 0? See how the travels the 0 the lines of 3 line rotation centers, 0, 0, and 0 calculation system. Chart calculation lines of 3, 3, and 3 line provisions. Pi direction of time sequence and all calculation of new flywheel, direct signal lines of dimensional solar sail of track location. Now we take the travel line centers in 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, 6, 7, and 8 travel communications. All right, that equation. So getting that line communication setting, all you have to understand is your provision line centers has your battery reset position programs, 2 track locations, right? Calculate line interference and position of positive and position of negative and location line settings, right? Say calculate high interference. Now you have a plus line and calculation setting to a negative line rotation center. Getting direct line centers and modification lines of 3 set locations, all right? Positions of 2 panels, operation surface. See how it comes into a dimensional line scale? And 2 panels of communication lines of a lacing line communication of tubes and set location. Calculation modification line centers, all line rotation centers to track location. See? Okay? Very powerful, isn't it? So you can understand how you create dimensional line lock screens, setting line rotation centers in line signals in position location system, all calculation modified. Now it's all about understanding how to use your fingers. Your finger points the system of clock lines. Each finger has an indication line centers all positioned to its console. The communication of its console coordinates the patterns and line position of each finger in a barcode register time sequence in line calculation setting in all lines of shapes and numbers and track location. Okay? Direct lines of communication lines. Direct line signals modification centers of center communication. Okay? Same line communication lines. Tubing and line centers, all line position to its operation. Your life force tree calculation. Higher force lines of communications, okay? Represent time. So in that calculation of directions, sets lines of 3 lines, 4 lines, and 5 set location. Okay? Down by equation. Remember, space and time comes to you in provision, but you have to really understand how to send the lines is calculation of 45-degree angle calculation stream. That's all set position to your operation line centers of travel calculation centers of formulas equation. Done by equation. So it's amazing how we come into all calculations, right? Directing lines of figure 8 line rotation serves. Triangulation of point systems calculation line interference. Inline rotation center calculation setting. Equal line communication of 3 set location. So the synchronized communication is no longer in position location. You come into lacing lines of your TV receptors in a 4-track line of 5 set location. Okay, your TV box. Your lacing lines are taken out of separation. Then there are 3-track lines of lacing line communications and a 5-line provision. 4-track lines of point systems and 3 lines of measure. Crosses line stream and set location timestamp, timeline setting, travel records and timelines, and 3 tracks, 4 tracks, and 5 provisions. Incentive calculations. Coming into new TV reception of receptor communications in its high calculation. Done by equation. So that's how you come into the equal line communication centers. Platform communications of 1, in position of 2, in position of 3, in position of 4, and 5 set location. Okay, very powerful. So recognition timelines is really understand the point systems travels of your dimensional door lines. So location line centers of 4, in position of 5, in set location. Okay, and position location of your location grid. Okay, security line dividers and line rotation center. Okay, very complicated stuff. Point system on track lines, directing lines of position locations on 45-degree angle on the opposite side. Crosses line stream, timestamp over pi. Okay, 1 line signature, positions of platforms, and 2 track locations. Right, line connections of 4 track locations. Sets position of 0 calculation centers in line rotation surface and closet calculation. Now, directing communication line interference is all about understanding how to use the tubing system of time travel and direct signal. Okay? Modification line centers, the center calculating line centers are 4-point systems and travel at 3. You always work with 4, you always work with 3. But a 3 triangulation line centers high position form lines has to come into T reception lines. 3 lacing lines of communication setting to a dimensional sail, a solar sail, in retract location of center and calculation. Very complicated stuff in traction. Okay? So that's what it is. That's what the moon's going into. It's going into its balance lines, into its geometric original design lines, coming back in 0 tractions, in 8-line figure, 1-line rotations of yin and yang, process calculated line system, in-line rotations, position of 6 and 9-line centers of track location. Okay, that's my question. All right. How's everybody doing so far? I know you have a lot of questions. A lot of questions, but that's a beautiful thing, right? Is getting questions is getting your answers, right? Where do your answers come from? Within. All center communication line centers come in your position location of your abundance for the first time in all sequence. Let me say that again. You're not losing anything. You're coming back of who you are in division of travel, and you get it in chronological order. You have to understand how to go through 24, 48, 72, and 144, which creates a platform, which creates a crop circle in line conditions of pi, sets a dimensional sail, line conditions high center, open up the door, go through the door, sets position of galaxies, lines, and universe location of setting attraction. Getting your position location system is all levels of travel recognition. Recharging, relines, 1-line signature position of panels, 2-point system of track lines and 2-line rotations, set position location of all lines of 3, sets position location of 1, 2, and 3, and 4 set locations, in position of 1-line settings, position of 5-line rotations, 6 correlations, 7-line tracks, and 8 revision set location. How this is set up is to understand how it correlates high centers of travels. So you tell me, how did I come from 16 to 8 at set locations? 16 lines of value and volume communication and frequency lines into viewers and 8 lines of thumbs up. Track location center to travel. Recognition of time sequences, 8 lines of charges, 8 lines of revision, and 3 cycles. So 8 lines of space, 8 lines of time, 8 lines of revision, 8 lines of location, 4 generations. Direct lines of calculation high interference, sun comes in, moon comes in, track line connects high centers, all levels of signal location system of phase calculation. Done by equation. So you're always working with the inner line setting. The balanced communication is a yin and yang, putting process line centers high in position to its calculation stream and set location of travel. Okay? All right. So getting in the provision, very complicated stuff, right? But you understand why the moon is going back in time. It's got to re-coordinate its setting to travel. The sun has to get in line rotation setting. It's a waiting signal, position travel calculation. So the moon is here and travel. That's what it's doing, right? It's traveling back, but it's going forward. You're locked in signal of 69 position travel calculations, waiting on position to its operation. All right. So the sun is here, waiting on position. All right. Setting correlations and timestamp. Setting line calculating high centers, travel direction of point system line directions, and line calculation setting of face recognition. There's the intelligence. Okay. So in track line calculation high interference, once the moon goes back to 0, track to its communication setting. Sun comes in, sets position location system, comes in center calculation of yin and yang, process calculating high interference. They start to swim for the very first time. Oh, let me say that again. They start to swim for the very first time. One more time. They start to swim for the very first time into the yin and yang. Once the process of its wheel, line rotates the system, fly direction and time sequence, calculates high position of power direction and timelines, 45-degree angle. They both travel position locations, and they create their dimensional sails and all line condition setting of travel recognition. Okay, that's what happens. So in line rotation, the moon goes back to 0. You come out of the line position location system. You're tracking your communication lines. Your memory stays on point view wherever you are in mind of consciousness. That doesn't change. The only thing that changes is your dimensional sails of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols that put you in higher track divisions and modifications, all levels, that put you in higher calculation lines that teleportation units and track locations, how to use your body sets in all calculations, in your Merkaba, in your Tesseract, and the new calculation lines of a tesseract communication setting of GOD. Okay? Modification centers of track location. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Okay, so now you understand locations. When the moon comes online, centers are 0. The set location the sun comes forward, comes in yin-yang process. They create a dimensional and solar sail together. Set of position locations. Taken out of the lock line centers of 69 position travels, putting position locations going forward in track locations. 3-point position of the travels in line settings. Okay? So moon here, sun here. Okay? Now, in that direct signals, crosses line stream. Position location high centers, crosses line stream, crosses line stream. Okay? Center calculation of point systems, center lines, set lines of high interference, magnetic highway information, charge direction of timeline. Now, in direct signal location, the moon comes in here, line rotations, travel, 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 travel to the sun, right? The sun location, right? Same position location, the sun and moon come together and they go into the same flow recognition. So they get to know each other through the inner line rotations. Getting that correlated high interference puts them into yin and yang process calculations, right? So that set line communication comes into dimensional solar cell communications. Now the sun has to go also back to 0, which all lines its communication setting to a line communication line in rotation surface and a triangulation reset position programs in all line connectionized centers to computer adaptation surface and triangulation. Okay? Setting position of travel lines in all line rotation surface. Okay? Surfacing engines in all point systems and track location. Okay? Point system, and point system. Okay? That's what's happening. All right? That's it. We're done. Say, what? No, more. You know, there's so much I can give you guys already know line setting location of formulas. But that's all it is. Just forming this equation. Coming back and then line setting hypercenter travels. Charts of timelines. Also correlation. Okay? Very powerful stuff, what we're coming into. All right. So, special line connection high centers. Okay? Very complicated stuff, right? So it's knowing exactly where to put the numbers back. Okay? Not to put them in positions of going forward. See how that works, location line centers? Or is it position location and coincidence that we're in 16 and 9? No. 1 lines of provision, 16 line calculation setting travels, right? Puts volumes of communication in 1 lines, equal lines calculation is 16, line calculation high interference, 2 bracket communication line interference, 6 line communication 9, track lines, set lines of hard calculation lines, a 6 position location and 9 line centers, and track and time sequence position of power over pi. Okay. So once you get into that, you come in your infinity 8. Once you come into that, you come in your 1 cycle. Once you come into that, you come into position location of 3 line track locations. Getting a line connection to 1 line center, which is your time sequence. Time sequence location is 3. But the position of 4 line tracks is line connection of space. That sets lines in center line communication of bodies of water and track line calculates setting of yin and yang of process communication. Done by equation. And if you look really close, you can see the face recognition, time sequence. Okay? Hoo-ah. Now we're done. That's it by all equations and set position travels. Woo! All right, so it's amazing what we just finished doing, guys. Okay, I know you guys have a lot of questions. Setting line communication high position walls of Trinity, Captain, line set location Gypsy, line connection high center interference, check calculation high interference, position travel communication settings, all level line connections, indirect signal, all modified, all line rotations, all center communication lines, sovereignty, freedom, all around position travel calculation settings, common chronological order, in position location of travels, and all calculations. Danielle. All calculating line centers in high position to its operation service, indirect signals, modification system. See you in 5.